than this vacuum seal stuff. It's quicker, it's cleaner, it's easier to pack. You can cut your custom pieces out and fold it up, and then you use painter's tape, blue tape. And so this is like, and you can only get this stuff at Walgreens and Target, which is kind of weird. So Target, in the back of Target, you'll find the freezer paper. One roll lasts kind of a long time.
You like it better than like a vacuum seal?
Really? Yeah. So vacuum seal's good. I use that too if I'm doing like big things of burger. But even then, I'm like, I'd rather use freezer paper. It's just easier to deal with, and it's not as much plastic too. Yeah. And I'll bring out like the whole processing bowls and things that I use and the different knives that I use once I get back to the table here, because that's where the real work is. And it takes about 2 hours of after you brought all the pieces back to then get your meat.
How can you have any pudding if you don't eat it? Should be. I love the open fire slow cook.
It's really nice.
12 hours.
Yeah.
It's just like out there.
What I wanted to show you is pretty much everything, but is so these little tricks though are going to really save time on you keeping your blade sharp. Another thing too, which I did on this blade just because I was getting ready for the class, is once you use a blade, don't put it back in the sheath. Wrap it in a towel, or like a baby wipe or something. Just kind of cover this up, because then you're gonna have to clean this too. And if you don't clean this too, and no one talks about this, I'm like, man, I've watched so many YouTube videos. I'm like, don't put it back in here, and then you're gonna have to put this in the dishwasher, and then leather going in a dishwasher, not so good. So just when you're done with your blade, wipe it off with a baby wipe, alcohol wipe, whatever you want to use, but then stick it in your sack so it doesn't poke a hole, and it saves the time of, I'm gonna have to put this in that thing anyway. But yeah, so that's what's in here.
Now you said that there's a bunch of notes or something that you'll be sending out?
Yeah, I got a whole, and I got links and
okay.
all sorts of stuff.
And we'll send the video out too.
Yeah.
Can I see that medical kit real quick?
Oh, what is you get that at the hunting store, the bow shop?
I don't know if they have that at the, I'm gonna be honest, the guy at the,
Yeah, he used it.
I've like tried to befriend the guy at the bow shop.
They're not the warm and fuzziest
He's
in
not,
there.
and I don't understand why. I'm like, dude, you know how many guys are psyched that you freaking started this store there? And I don't know.
The one by the UPS store? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a sweet, beautiful store.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I cut myself. I used to use.
I don't know if he was like, I think he took on a lot. It's probably expensive to be in there.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm like,
There's
a lot of money in bows. Like everyone's so pumped on hunting here. Like you could have people would just hang out in here if you put couches.
Well, they have that. They always say they have the space next door. You just put a range there. If you just put a couple lanes, you probably get
put a
people
TV
all
up,
yeah.
Range in a coffee shop.
Bro,
Well, there's a
game
spot
over.
in San Diego, Performance Archery, that has the shop and then lanes, and they fill up. You get youth programs, and you fill that thing up, and then everyone's
All the
buying
high
their stuff
schools,
through you.
yeah.
I mean,
He's got a good thing.
yeah.
He's just, I don't know if he's.
We got a guy that's got a bike shop in the town I was in, and same kind of thing, I mean,
Here you go.
great place, but he just kind of got an attitude.
It's always bike shops.
Difficult
They're
to
worse,
be
though.
there.
It's specialization and stuff. People get hoity about it.
You bring something in, it's like,
for sure.
I'd just throw it away. Like,
Yeah.
that's my bike.
I know, help me. Yeah. So, okay, so this. These are super sharp.
Should we take these apart?
No, we'll keep them together. I got a little. So another thing too is I'll kind of show you guys. See, my shop's a mess right now, but it's all about organization and having a home for all this stuff. Because this is, you got a backpack, you got boots, You got a bow now. You got a bow thing. It's a lot, you know. Binos, this, you know. For me, most of the stuff lives in my truck. So it's like figure out where everyone's living situation is different. So just figure out where you're going to be putting all this stuff and making sure it just doesn't get moldy. You know, well, it's not an issue for like key hit stuff,
Mold's
but
gnarly. Yeah,
and
it's a whole different.
because that's a contaminant too, right? Like it's all stuff you got to think about for when you get your animal and storing your stuff. So this is the front leg, and obviously it's super solid right now. But when storing like a bigger piece like this, I like to use the aluminum because it'll mold to it, and it still protects it from freezer burn. But you know, people have their thing about aluminum. It's toxic. Which I don't, you know. But you can see, so this meat has been in my freezer. No joke. 4 months?
Oh, is it really? Before, so
Yeah.
it's been a long time. It hasn't been a recent one.
This is not a recent one. This is
yeah.
4 months, and look, there's no freezer burn. And look how thin that is.
Yeah.
Renewable material, aluminum. Boom, done. And see how much meat this is? This is a dough. So like this is probably 1.5 inches of meat on the blade. And what's nice about it, if you cook it in the foil, or I try not to cook with foil, but what I would do is the Traeger's great. It holds in the moisture and stuff like that. Or you're going to use the crock pot, and what I would do is I would use my tomahawk blade or a big butcher blade and just section this off. Chop, chop, chop. And then put it in a crock pot. You can do a stew or whatever, and then you can get the marrow. And then that's like the bone marrow soups and broths and stuff.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Actually, we'll probably cook this up this weekend. But yeah, so also, I also want to show you guys. So it's kind of hard to see, but basically there you can kind of see the bone come out. So there's your bone. Okay. Bone, and then you're gonna have your section of meat right here, which is actually a lot. You know, like that's probably even a steak. You could probably even make a steak out of that. And for this purpose, I just want to say, so like, let's just imagine this being the haunch. Okay, so here's your Reno cut. Here's your square section. What you're gonna want to do is I always, and there's hundreds of different ways of how you can process it here. There's probably 5 that are like efficient. So like one of the 5 that I do is you start with that one side hunch, and you actually go down the division of the meat. So there each piece of muscle, you're gonna slide down it biologically. So just you can literally, and then you can literally take your hand, you can separate it. It'll literally come apart. And once you pull it apart, then you're gonna go down to the bone, and then you're gonna have to make your incisions. So you're gonna take your literally around each kind of joint. So boom, the hip joint, and then the leg, the that pivoting kind of elbow joint. So cut, and then that one piece will literally just pop off. Then it's gonna open up, and you're gonna be able to see the femur. So the femur will be there, and then this is where it gets a little tricky. So there's the roast, and the roast is actually the inner part of the leg, and the roast is actually connected straight to the bone. And that's where you don't want to dull your blade. So you want to save that piece for the last cut. And so there's another section on the other side where you're gonna just kind of cut into the meat, square out, and then kind of follow the separation of muscles. And don't be afraid to like really chop in, because what I'll show you guys later on is all these pieces that you mess up on, burger.
Bless.
Yeah.
Burger. It's all burger. So
That's great.
whatever. Like don't worry about it. Like you're gonna eat it anyway. Unless the field gets dirt on it, then obviously he'll be grinding on it if you got a pup. So you're taking all these pieces, you're gonna the last section is that roast. So you're gonna cut down the femur on one side and kind of guide your blade in it, pulling it away from the bone, and then cutting on the other side. And then you're gonna chop off on the top by the hip bone, the hip socket. And then you're gonna pull this section off, and this is if you're doing it kind of like hung, ideally, and it's way easier. There's ways of doing it in the field too, same kind of thing, where you would literally pull the skin back, cut all your pieces off, not have it on the bone, and then put them in your pillow sacks.
Yeah.
And
Just meat then, you're just
meat,
taking
just meat.
home.
Yeah.
What
meat.
if your wife wants the skins?
Okay, so skinning, if she wants the skins or if you want to preserve the skins,
Yeah.
it is a process.
Heard,
What's
yeah.
really cool though is in Hawaii, especially on Maui, there's 3 different people that will do it.
I've seen that actually, yeah.
So my friend Paws, his wife does it. Other buddy, there's not the Kuwait. Shoot. Anyway, I can send you the 3 people who do it here.
Okay.
2 of them mail it out. 1 of them actually does it here.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And the ones that get mailed out, although name's Jab, she does a really good job. So the first one she did were kind of like more tough, which you can make drums and stuff out of.
Yeah.
But then she started really getting into the softeners, and there's different things, these acids you can put it in that are natural,
Yeah.
and it makes them like.
What is it, brains? When they say brains, the
So
best
the
thing.
brain-
Talking about the buck skinny.
Tanning. Tanning.
The tannin. So the brain has there's like an I don't know because I don't mind really into the taxidermy.
Yeah.
But the brain I think has the oils, the tannins, and the acids. I don't know.
Amino acids.
And there
I mean,
seems to be just enough with the brain of that one animal
To do the
to do
one
that
hide.
skin. I've got a really
And-
fantastic book on that. It's
Yeah.
good stuff.
There's so much good information. But what's cool about the brain is you can eat it, and it's actually like sweet eggs, is what it tastes like. And it's super good for you. So if you don't do a tanning thing with it, you can actually still take the brain and make use of it. You can actually eat the whole head of the deer and steam it in a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And the tongue's real good, the cheekbone's amazing, and then the brain stuff too. I recently learned that. And I was like, whoa, you got like, he's like,
The brain.
my buddy
trips
was
me
mouth,
out.
he was like
Yeah.
salivating. He was like, it's so good. I was like, bro, I didn't realize it was that good. And he cooked it, and it was Turkish.
cheese.
He was Turkish. And so they do the lambs and stuff the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The neck meat too,
Oh yeah. Tender.
real good. Not on a buck. A buck, you can't even really make even burger with it. It's hard.
They have to have that neck.
Oh, they
to-
have like, all
go,
the
right?
tendons are massive.
Yeah.
So there's that. Let's see here. So in the field, you can kind of piecemeal and put everything in. And you get about 25 pounds to 30 pounds of meat on a doe, which is a lot. You know, like 20 pounds of meat, like you could feed almost, theoretically like 20 people with that one doe. Or 3 weeks of meals and stuff. You're just eating that. And so you bring it back, you have all your pieces, you got to keep them cold. So what I use, I fish and hunt at the same time. So I'm doing all different things with dead bodies and stuff, right? So it's like I have a fish bag, and that fish bag is great for a day. It does not hold ice at all. It's not cold. The most ideal is, like I said, having a refrigerator at your house where you can put the meat in there and it's not going to get wet. So everything, all about this stuff, even fish and everything, you don't want the meat to get fresh water on it. Even salt water you don't want to get on it. Salt water is better because it preserves it, but even any type of water is going to mess your meat up. So when you put your meat in a cooler, you actually even want to put it in a tray, like a metal tray that'll absorb the coldness, the temperature. It'll keep it colder. So metal's really good. Glass is great too. So like a, what's it called?
Pyrex.
Pyrex, the Pyrex.
Yeah.
So using Pyrex, so putting it, so get your bags of ice, break them up, and then put them in your cooler, and then literally just, you know, kind of shimmy the Pyrex or the aluminum or whatever type of cooking pan into, or pot. You can put them in a pot too if you got like a head or something, into the ice, and then keep it covered. And then your cooler will keep your meat. You don't want to process your meat the same day you get it. So the meat, you want to literally, I let my meat sit on ice or in the fridge for like 3 weeks, or as I want to eat it. In the cooler, at least 2 days. So, and same goes for fish. So fish too, you don't, unless it's an ahi and you like really want to eat it, the sashimi and the grade of your fish or meat will be 10 times better if you let it sit for 24 hours, or at least 10 hours on the ice. So really take that into consideration before you're processing your meat. So let it sit. You don't need to be in a rush. Just keep it cold, but not like really keep track of your cooler, because your quality of your cooler is going to dictate everything. What's nice about this tree is you won't really get wet, but phones and stuff, just be aware. And so getting back, so my recurve string, thinking about the rain, is I've waxed my recurve string, and that Hungarian bow I don't really care about with the string wise, but for a recurve bow, that string, if it gets wet, will mess it up. You always want to oil it or keep it waxed. Anyway, so you have your meat, boom, you get into the aging process. It's aged for 2 days. Now you're ready to process it, okay? So you have all your different cuts or whatever. So there's gonna be this layer on here, it's called the silver. So there's a layer of silver, this like, basically the second layer of skin that's protecting the muscle. You wanna get that off. So these bigger pieces of backstrap or like the Reno cut are gonna have this layer on it. And it's fine to eat burger, but if you have it on your steak and you try to serve somebody that meal, it's gonna be chewy and tough, and they're gonna be like, why did you give me this? Like, and it kind of just wrecks the whole feel of eating this wild game that is tender if you take that stuff off. There are ways of preparing it where you can actually keep that on, but that's like a whole nother thing. You have to do medallions. So it has to be the outside, kind of like a sausage or something, where you're gonna be like, okay, well, just realize on the outside, you're gonna have this tougher layer. And sometimes it's better for cooking, depending on how you're cooking this stuff. But most of the time, if you're gonna make burger and you have a grinder, so you're gonna need to buy a grinder. Hands down, best investment I've ever made with hunting, especially here in Hawaii. That's what sucks about Hawaii. And what I wanted to bring up with talking about, like, you know, the Maui Nui guys, is they're going FDA. And that is not the path that Hawaii should take. The path that Hawaii should take is have a processing facility for hunters like you and I to go out, get our game, and bring it back to them. And you don't pay for the meat, you pay for their services. You have, like on the mainland,
San Diego, they have fish processing places
Right.
all over.
And
They take your fish and they make tuna. I mean, it's cool.
and it's like an art too, because
Yeah.
you're watching these guys just do
And
that.
they use every inch of the
There should be
fish.
funding for that, shouldn't there?
So there should be allocations for it, and I feel like the information is slowly getting out more of like, hey, we should probably copy other states like Montana or Washington or Oregon or California, where you can go and you can literally drop off your deer and say, I want X amount of sausage, X amount of burger, X amount of fillets, X amount of smoked meat or whatever, jerky, and they make it all for you, and you say, here's the spices that I want on it, and then you're like hands off, step away, and it's like $3.50 a pound or $4.50 a pound, depending on what type of process you want done on that portion of the meat. And then that's how they make their money, right?
Started.
Yeah, so it's a $1 million, multi-million-dollar idea. Someone should do it.
And do they make sure that you get the same deer that you brought in?
Yeah.
So they don't just lump it all together?
Nope. Yeah, they do. Each person has their own thing, and then tags and everything.
You were saying something about the grinder because you want to add your spices or something? Was that what you were saying?
And the sausage, like when they're making sausages and jerky and all sorts of stuff, you can be like, I want, or they'll pre-marinate your steaks. Dude, like you want honey peppercorn on your on the steak,
Oh,
like
right, yeah.
I'll vacuum seal or freezer paper that for you. Like
Put it in
done.
there, ready to go.
Yeah, like this is a meal for 4 people. Here
You
you
don't
go.
pre-salt it, do you? Just
So,
spices?
I do a combination.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a good